Welcome to the Chain. We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl and Sarah.
And I'm Sarah Shower, and this is the BCC Club, where each week we go down an internet rabbit hole. This one has gone off the internet into real life. And what is it, Kendahl?
We're talking about the secret lives of Mormon wives.
Yes. It's a group of influencer Mormon women moms, and they got in this scandal, and it blew up, and now they have their own reality TV show.
And honestly, it's good. It's very similar. It's filmed very similarly to Real Housewives.
Yeah.
Have you watched?
I've watched half of the first episode because we were doing this, and then I was like, I gotta watch it 2 times the speed. They seem like nice ladies, I guess. But hot people talk at this rate that doesn't mesh well with my brain.
Yeah.
Because no one speeds up hot people. They don't. No one pressures them to finish up and keep talking.
Right, because they're just enjoying looking at them.
Yeah, they're like, I'm having so much fun being here. But right. I'm like, I can't. I don't even. Yeah. It's yes. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. There's some good drama, I will say. There is some good drama. It feels really, I feel like it's going to be a success.
Yeah.
A big hit.
Yeah, I think it is. Because, I mean, everyone loves to know about, everyone's just curious about Mormonism as it is. So the idea of, like, a show being very open about Mormon sexuality and, like, an offshoot of Mormonism, because I know there's very strict Mormonism, and then they're the fun-ish type.
I know. Yeah. I will say, watching the show, Jordan keeps going, what is Mormonism?
Yeah.
It's just like, there's all these rules, but no one is following them.
Yeah.
And it feels, which I was like, well, I guess that's most religions. Like, there's levels of which people are, you know, how devout they are. But then at the same time, Mormon feels a little different because it's kind of like, no, this is one of those ones where you just do, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, the ones they're swingers and they're like cheating, but then they still don't drink coffee. And you're like, that actually feels like maybe lower on the list of things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the easier one to not do. Although to me, it feels so much easier to drink. It would be harder for me to not drink coffee than it would be for me to cheat on my wife.
Yeah.
But I guess we all have our vices.
I guess that is true. Yeah, it's easier to drink coffee than have sex with someone else.
Right. I'm like, that feels like so much. How are you putting so much effort into not drinking coffee, but you're like sleeping with 6 other women or men? Which we'll get into later. Anyways, before we get into it, how was your week?
It was good. I realized something on accident. I accidentally am teaching myself quantum physics.
Okay, there we go.
So Me
too. It's so interesting. We had the same exact week.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I was talking to Kendahl about with the autistic people like to ask why an obnoxious amount of times. And normally when you talk to people as an autistic person, when you ask why too many times, people assume that you're undermining their intelligence. Like, it's like, as people assume that you're testing them. But when in reality, we're just excited to go deeper on a conversation because we want to understand and connect with the world, because no one really explains things to autistic people. And so, like, we when we get the chance to find out something, we're like, well, lay it all on me, you know? And so this is how I got into quantum physics. So I originally read the book Burnout by Emily Nagoski, and it's about, you know, how the patriarchy burns everyone out, right? Like, and there's a lot of shame involved. And so I was like, shame, interesting. So I read Shame by Healing the Shame That Binds You, right? It unpacks shame. And then I was like, shame is an emotion. So there's more to emotions. So then I read Between Us, How Cultures Create Emotions by Bacha Mesquita. It taught me about, like, you know, collectivist versus individualistic emotions. And I was like, you know, it's complementary to emotions, logic. So I read The Art of Logic by Eugenia Chung. Learned about logic, logical fallacies, all this stuff. And then I was like, oh crap, what was the next step after this? So then I got into, so what's right? And so then I got into Justice, the book, and it's about, like, it's philosophy. It's like moral panics, you know, what is moral, like what is right versus wrong. And then I was like, okay, so what's missing out of all this? Consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so then I read Notes on Complexity. It's a theory, it's like about complexity theory and, like, quantum foam, quantum physics. And so then I got the rundown on that and consciousness, and then I was like, you know what, the physics. So now I picked up the Dancing Woolley Masters overview of new physics, and so I realized I hated the patriarchy so much. I accidentally taught myself quantum physics, and I'm really into physics now, even though math is still my preference. But it's interesting.
Crossover.
But and people who like math or science will get me on this. I think science is math's ugly cousin. Math is the laws of the universe, right? They don't change what is true mathematically right here, right now, across the universe would be true as well. When it comes to science, it's very relative. Like, so what could be true for, I mean, science is constantly being updated. Math is, when it's a law is established, it's pretty much established, so. But, okay, yeah, and if I didn't hate Mark Wahlberg so much, it reminds me of, he was in this movie one time, I think it's called The Other Guys, where he, like, learned ballet as a joke.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when I realized I, like, accidentally taught myself some quantum physics because I did not like men so much.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a big stand-up bit in the making. And so that's not how my week went. I did that more in a week, but I had that realization where I was like, oh my God. I taught myself, and I didn't even like science or math in school because no one accommodated me. Everyone, like, as soon as I saw equations, I was like, I'm out. But now that I'm reading on my own schedule and like pace, and I'm like, math is fun.
Yeah.
I actually really like math.
Yeah, I know. That's so fun. And would you ever go and take a college math class?
I would. Believe it or not, I have thought about finishing my degree, which is 400 level business analytics classes, which is statistics. And so, like, it is math. Yeah. But it's, like, business math, and that's the not fun part. But, I mean, I could, and I would just have to learn how to use Excel and a bunch of programs again. But it would be a math class, and I would technically finish my degree. But then and so I just started to get really excited about math, because it's also Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th. And I started reading this book called Magical Urbanism, How Latinos Reinvent the U.S. City. And they were talking about the actual spread of the Latino population in Los Angeles, which is incredibly unique. Even to, like, Chicago and New York, it's different. In Los Angeles specifically, literally the layout of the population is like fractal geometry. And so you're like, okay, but fractal geometry is the essence of life. Right? Like, this is like chaos theory and all this stuff, where like the Latino population in Los Angeles is literally mathematically has created itself, and it is literally the essence of life mathematically. So I started to freak out, and I posted about it on my Instagram stories. And literally my 3 usual math nerds are like, do you know what this means? Everyone else is like, we have no fucking idea what you mean. Because I posted a picture of the population map of Los Angeles, and everyone's like, that looks like nothing. That doesn't look like a geometric pattern. I was like, you don't understand. Yeah. If you could understand how... And then all the three...
what is it?
Okay.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
So there's different... Okay, so to show the topology of different Latino populations across the U.S. Yeah. In Los Angeles, specifically, it's a city within a city. Right. Okay, and it's a geometric pattern. Like, in Chicago, it's like 4 boroughs that are considered Latino neighborhoods. In New York, it's pretty evenly spread, or kind of stays in like Queens or something like that, or different neighborhoods where it's specific neighborhoods. In Los Angeles, cities, they actually built a city within a city, right? Yeah. And the way that, so with complexity and like, I guess, the pattern that Latinos have established themselves in Los Angeles is literally fractals, like it's math. And it's like fractals are where like chaos meets organization, which is like the essence of life. Like, that is complexity theory. And so Latinos in Los Angeles specifically have embodied the essence of life.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Do you?
I do. I'm 75% there.
Okay.
But I'm really, my gears are turning. That's what I'll tell you. I am trying. I understand.
So then since I read Notes on Complexity and then I saw that, I was like, that is crazy. And so like, I mean, there are so many, like, obviously, immigrant communities are different, minority communities in the U.S., but the Latino population is so incredibly unique, and it's just incredible. The unbridled creativity and the mosaic that Latinos are literally spread out in is just like, the people are the place. Yeah, yeah. Right? Like, literally. Right. Yeah. They are life.
Right.
It's
totally.
Cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Quantum physics?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's fractal geometry, which gets into
Okay,
quantum.
well, there we go. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What would you? Yeah, I feel like you should take a college. But you can also just take one-off classes and don't go to your degree.
I want to. The thing is I'm teaching myself so informally. Where like in a traditional school system, you go from pre-calc to like calc, and then you like build up. I'm doing this thing called lateral learning, where I like go sideways instead of up. Mm-hmm. So I am kind of like, imagine me like reading every 3 chapters of a math book. And so there's so many chapters I'm missing, but I do understand concrete, like.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess, I just have to find out where I that would land myself mathematically.
Totally. That's amazing.
What did you do this week?
Well, if we're talking about books.
Yes.
I read 3 books this week.
Holy shit.
Can you believe that?
Yes.
Because I was on a road trip.
Yes.
So I read I can't even remember the name. Either Late Night or Last Night at the Telegraph Club.
Okay.
I read a book called, let me look at it. Let me go to my Goodreads. Last Night at the Telegraph Club.
Yes.
I read a book called An Education in Malice, which was recommended to me on Book Talk and I gave it 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Then I read the worst book I've ever read, which is what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Well, second worst, but one of the worst books I've ever read.
Yeah.
It was called How to Excavate a Heart.
Uh-huh.
Now, I thought I was going to love this because, I try to do some harder books and then I'll do a kind of a cheesy one. It's just kind of for fun because it makes me then look forward to do something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't read a bunch of cheesy books back to back.
Yes.
It's supposedly, I said excavate, that sounds like fossils. Sounds like something I'd be interested in. 2 lesbians on the cover walking in snow.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I'd like. It was terrible. It was so bad.
Yeah.
It was so boring. And my bone I really want to pick with it is why, because I've at this point read a lot of lesbian books.
Yes.
So now we're scraping kind of
now you have
the
standards.
Bottom. Well, I have standards, but I've read all the books people are like, you gotta read this one.
Yes.
So I'm reading books that no one has said you gotta read this.
Yeah.
And I would agree, you don't have to read them. And in these books where it's kind of like we're getting into maybe stuff that's not the best.
Yeah.
They all kind of feel like a Wattpad novel, you know what I mean? Like someone wrote after high school in the late night so their mom wouldn't know that they were up. It doesn't really feel like great writing. But what I also am finding in these books is they give the characters the most boring jobs I've ever could think of. For example, in this book, one of them is unemployed. Well, she's unemployed, but she's not looking for a job. She's just like living with her dad. They're young. She's like 19.
But that's accurate lesbian representation.
But I don't care. I'm like, if you're writing a book, make her a fucking firefighter or something. Like, do something. Mm-hmm. It's a book. I don't want to read about 2 people that I knew in college. Like, I don't care. And then the other girl was an intern at the Natural History Museum, which you'd go, oh, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is she's like, well, I'm the intern, so I get to do kind of the least interesting job. I'm like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Make them interesting. Make her like the most interesting job that's unrealistically she wouldn't get at the Natural History Museum. Why are they so boring? And I've read so many books like this where one of them, she worked in advertising. This is another book I didn't like. She worked in advertising, but then she wanted to help with her parents' restaurant. Oh, a restaurant. That sounds interesting. Working at your parents' restaurant? What a fun book. No, remove them. The whole book was about them being at a packaged food convention.
Okay.
I don't want to read that.
Yeah.
Why are you giving these people, it feels like they're trying to be like, well, people have already written books about these jobs, so I need to find a job that no one has ever written a book about. Like a job that just is so normal. Like they work for Bank of America corporate. I'm like, I actually don't want to read that.
Yeah.
Why would you make me listen to this? So this whole book is, so then she gets a part-time job walking this girl's dog.
Yeah.
It's a kind of enemies to lovers trope.
Yeah.
But the reason they hate each other, it doesn't exist. There's no reason. They just kind of don't like each other. And then they're like, should we date? And there's no reason they wouldn't date. They just are like, maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. There's just no plot. And then in the meantime, it's just long descriptions of her working as an intern at this place, but no information about fossils. I didn't receive any information about fossils.
Yeah.
It's a very boring book, but I've noticed in these books, I'm like, give them more interesting jobs. Some of the best advice I gave in acting school is these people would do these really boring scenes, and they'd be like, well, that's what felt real to me. I didn't make a choice that was crazy because it didn't feel real in the moment. And my teacher which a lot of acting teachers don't agree with this, but she was like, I don't care if it feels real to you.
Yeah.
Slap him in the face. That's what I want to see. I want to see you shove her up against a wall and make out with her. Like, I want to see something interesting. I don't want to watch someone type at their computer.
Yeah.
Even though that's more realistic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to intake some interesting stuff. So I've gone over to more of a fantasy side.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to see dragons. I'm not trying to see an unpaid intern on their mundane day-to-day life.
No, as you should. I mean, if writing is like comedy, art, or music, no one wants to see a stand-up comedian go on stage and literally not have a set. No one wants to hear a singer sing a song that we've all heard before. No one wants to, see an artist just produce something that's so forgettable. I understand acting is supposed to be realistic.
Yeah.
But you need to capture our attention. You need to express something. What is the most interesting thing about the characters is that they're lesbians?
Right.
Lesbians have a rich inner world going on.
Throw a zombie in there.
Yeah, like
something.
Seriously, because the thing is, if you make the most interesting part about them, their lesbianism, that means you're going to have to give one of them cancer later on to make them more interesting. If you give them a high-stress job or a dragon, then you don't have to lean into the lesbianism or the cancer aspect. Right. You could just make them fight dragons.
Right, but now all these lesbian books too.
Yeah.
They're like, well, because everyone's like, I want to listen to a lesbian story where I don't have to come out and there's not hate like homophobic parents. All good. Then you have to do a different plot. Yeah. Because now in these books too, all the parents are so accepting. I'm like, so what's the plot? Yeah. Everyone's accepting and you're just choosing not to date for no reason because you're just kind of like, I need a plot to this book. It's so weird and it's just so it's. Like, for example, this book I read recently that was cheesy, but I was obsessed with, called The Ride of Her Life. Would recommend.
Okay.
Very easy read. Yeah. Very silly. But people are making fun of me because the two, on the front, it's a girl in cowboy hat. And I'm like, because that's what I want to see. Yeah. I've been on Hinge. Yeah. I've dated around. I've dated people who work in marketing. Yeah. I want to read a book where someone's dating a cowgirl. Yeah. How fun is that? Yeah. You can't do that in your everyday life. And it makes it so much more, and the stakes are so high. Yeah. Like in this book, she was like, of course, very Hallmark. Like this girl works on a farm as a farrier. And then this girl comes and she's been given her aunt's farm, which is bizarre because she's a city girl. And she's like, why did my aunt give me this farm? Well, I guess I'll sell it to developers so I can start my party planning business. Yeah. But then they're like, well, if you sell it to developers, all the old horses will have to be put down. Now, is that accurate to life? Probably not. I don't think they just immediately put horses down if you sell a property. Maybe they do. I don't know a ton about horses. But what a hell of a choice. Yeah. Now all the lives of these old horses are at stake because the author just went, who cares? I don't need to look up what the reality of horses getting put down is. Yeah. I can just put it in because it raises the stakes. And that's what some of these lesbian books, they need to raise the stakes a little more. Yeah. And I'm sure straight books too, but I don't read those, so I'm not going to speak on it. But there's, these lesbian books, there's got to be some higher stakes. Or give them an interesting job where every time it's like, there should be a almost death scene in every book. That's my opinion. Yeah, no, it's kind of amazing how people can make a lesbian somehow seem boring. Because when you think about lesbians, they're just I don't know, carpenters or comedians or they're doing some odd job. Right. Or they're literally in full drag pretending to be in a cottage in the middle of West Virginia. Or they're on make a book where a girl has to go for some reason, and you don't even have to explain why. She's a city girl, and she has to go work on a fishing boat in the deep sea. Yeah. With this lesbian fisherman who hates her, because why is a city girl on my boat? Yeah. And they have to go through the what is it called? The North Sea? What's the really scary one? I don't know. That went viral on TikTok? The really deep sea. Yeah. You have to go in the really deep sea and then they get in a storm together. Yeah. This is what I'm looking for. I don't want to watch an intern ever. Yeah. Do anything, to be honest. Yeah. Reading a book about an intern feels crazy. That's awful. How do you, the fact that you can make a lesbian boring is just sad. Yeah. How dare you? Also, the fact that there's so little lesbian literature out there, how dare you make it boring? Right. People should be dying from non-cancerous causes, having sex in the middle of the ocean on an oil rig. Right. That is the essence of what it means to be a lesbian. You're already so far removed from society. Be an astronaut. Yes, and be creative. You don't need to know if I were to write this fisherman book, which maybe I will. Honestly, great plot.
Yes.
But it's very fun. Has it been done before? I'm sure, but not with gay people. So let's do. And how many things are being remade? But use your imagination. You could make anything come to life.
Deadliest Catch with only lesbians?
Come on.
I would actually really watch that show.
But instead, it's like, it's so boring. I think there's just like they're like, well, it's really real. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want it to be real.
Oh my God, wait, you just reminded me of something. Okay, so a couple of months ago, I stitched this lesbian on a bus. And she was like, I want to write a lesbian TV show.
You told us about this. And then you can say it again. I'm not saying that in a way to tell you to stop, but you that's very exciting.
Go support man-hating lesbians on Kickstarter.
Sorry, you can tell the story again. I wasn't trying to tell you to not tell it.
I forgot. Okay, so man-hating lesbians, I reached out to the person writing it. If you go on the Kickstarter and donate to their Kickstarter so they can produce man-hating lesbians and we don't have to listen to boring intern. Well, actually, I don't know if any of the characters are interns. I digress. But yeah,
the whole thing is about like interns.
I was like, oh, now I'm doing the cast is very young, so I'm like, crap. Some of them could. There's nothing wrong with being an intern, and if you're a lesbian intern.
But this is my problem with it, and it's like whenever you're doing anything like in film or I have to sneeze.
Blaze.
Thank you. Blaze. Whenever you're doing anything in like art, I feel like, or like writing or in a movie or a play or whatever, it's like, why would you not choose the most interesting choice? So even in this book, I'm like, why would you make her, I guess to be relatable, where it's like, I have to do the boring work. But I'm like, why do you want to make me pick the most interesting thing that like you work as someone got shot. There's a lot of death in my books because I clearly like death. But I'm like, something happened and now you have to be thrust in to this. And some people are like, well, that's not about that. It's a romance. And I'm like, hardly. It was hardly a romance. I'll tell you that.
Ooh, if I was going to write a lesbian book, it would be a lesbian ice road truckers, right? And so one of the lesbians is an ice road trucker, and there's this gas station, and there's like someone who's like in the closet, and she's like only sees this like other lesbian like occasionally, and then like but she has like a very familiar pattern, right? Like the lesbian like always like trucks through, like gets gas at the certain time, and then she realizes one day like, oh, she never got gas, and she's like, the roads have frozen over, and so then she on her own ventures out and they get the truck back. Okay, I just came up with that. I'm writing it right now.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Or speaking of ice, you could do, one of them works on a Zamboni. You ever seen one of those?
Yes.
It could be called Zambone Me.
Okay. A pun.
Zambone Me, and it's about an ice skater and the Zamboni worker.
Yes.
And something, the rink catches on fire. Something like that.
Okay. Well, now I'm thinking about the trucker thing. It's like a Balto situation. Except the kids aren't dying. There's just lesbian sex to be had.
Also, never make the characters 18.
No.
Good Lord. I'll put the book down. I will get, now I got Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kindle Unlimited?
I got Kindle Unlimited. Something you get all the time. Kindle Unlimited. I got Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
Because I was spending way too much money at Barnes & Noble.
Yes.
But I still I just like holding the physical copy. So I still prefer reading a book. And I like going to the library, but I also like taking my books in the bath. So I'm not trying to hurt a library book.
Yeah.
So I've started buying, if there's a book I know I'm really going to like,
yes.
you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
I'll buy that. But anyways, what was I saying? What was I talking about? Oh, I got Kindle Unlimited.
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember why I was telling you that. What were you just talking about?
I was thinking about ice road truckers.
And you said, oh, I'll return the book is what I was going to say.
Okay.
When I open up one of these books, where they pitch it as like, it's a sexy, sapphic, will they, won't they? And the characters are in high school. I'm like, you should go to jail. I don't even believe in jail.
Yes.
But there's a special place in hell for weird little authors who do these weird, sexy high school books. I'm like, that is so, it makes me, and also, I don't care. Because in my head, you're going to break up anyways. Yes. Oh, you got together the last chapter? Well, see you in 3 months, buddy. You're going to be broken up.
Yeah. If you're going to do a lesbian romance in any sort of written form, you should make the lesbians at least 25 years or older. I'd prefer 30s because you know that one of them at least knows how to use a strap if there's a film adaptation.
And my best case scenario, this is why one of my favorite books, this is like a classic. Everyone knows Delilah Green Doesn't Care. You read?
No.
I mean, it's silly, but it's fun. But it's one of my favorites. Everyone loves it because one of the characters is divorced and has a 9-year-old. That bitch knows what she wants.
Yes.
She knows what she's looking for. She's been married to a man. She's dealt with a bad co-parenting situation. And then she runs into this photographer who's a little moody. And she knows that's what I'm looking for.
Yes. I need to get back into making YouTube videos, like dedicated long ones. But like, I literally love divorce parties, divorcees. I love a woman who's been divorced. I love a woman who's had a kid from a previous relationship or marriage. You know what you want.
Exactly. Because then you also, like in this book, for example, it's so satisfying when they get together. Like in Delilah Green, they move pretty fast. It's like by the end of the book, she's like, yeah, I want to be, like, let's be together. Versus when I read a 20-year-old or an 18, 19-year-old being like, this is it. I'm like, you're giving up too much of yourself.
You don't know what you want.
You don't know what you want. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Versus a 30-year-old, I'm like, yeah, let's get it going. Get the engagement ring on. Mm-hmm. Get a tattoo of each other's names.
Yes.
This is endgame.
Yeah. I just want more lesbian romance to be absolutely foul and mature at the same time. You know, be gross, but know what you want.
And you know what is gross, but people know what they want? It's not gross, actually. I'm trying to come up with this stuff. I went swingers. Being a swinger's not gross. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got a segue to do a segue. We're talking about the secret lives of Mormon wives today.
Yes.
We're talking about everything from the new TV show to the scandal. This isn't sponsored. I don't know if I need to say that, but a lot of people are promoting the show right now. We're not sponsoring Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but I am watching it. I finished the whole season.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm not really into shows like that, but Jordan loves them. So at first I watched it kind of in the background, and then when I knew we were going to do this episode, I rewatched it.
Yes.
And really paid attention.
You had to rewatch it.
I had to. My job is so hard. I had to rewatch it. Wrote on my Hulu account, off of my taxes, and said, this is perfect. But it is very interesting. So for starters, they all started on TikTok, which is why this is related to the internet.
Yes.
I feel like this is the first time really like a really high budget reality show has come out of just like TikTokers.
Yes.
I mean, well, besides the D'Amelio show, I guess, but.
Yeah, I can read the actual Hulu press and just like it's literally a paragraph. Okay, so this is about the actual show. The scandalous world of a group of Mormon mom influencers implodes when they get caught in the midst of a swinging sex scandal that makes international headlines. Now, their sisterhood is shook to its core. Faith, friendship, and reputations are all on the line. Will #MomTalk be able to survive and continue to give the rule book a run for its money, or will this group fall from grace? Okay, so grace by definition is unearned. You can't fall from it. Sorry. We just Christian. It just came up. But like, okay, no. But okay, so yeah, they did start on TikTok as Mom Talk, and it was a content house, but they all didn't physically live together. But they're all just these incredibly beautiful Mormon mothers and wives, and they are dancing usually, but then they started group sex.
Yes, and I pulled up this one article, which is from Marie Claire.
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
No, Marie Claire? You don't know what Marie Claire is?
No, it sounds like a children's clothing store.
It's a very popular magazine.
Well, clearly, they're doing great stuff on here. I loved it.
Yeah.
The reason I looked through a bunch of articles, but what I like about this one is they really go through the show. Like, what has happened.
Yes.
Like, kind of episode by episode, what happens in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you haven't watched, there might be some spoilers, but I won't tell you what happens. I'll just tell you the things that happened, but I won't tell you how they ended.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But also, famously, I'm not great at understanding what a spoiler is, so if I upset you, I'm sorry. So it got started, because this girl, Taylor, I believe is her name. Yes, Taylor Frankie Paul. And she basically posted a TikTok that was like, long story short, I'm divorced, and I have my 2 kids now, and I'm going to live by myself.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal in the Mormon community. That is not a thing people do it all the time, but it's not a thing you're supposed to do. It's very looked down upon.
Yes.
So it was a very big deal. And then she went live, and I'm kind of shortening this, but she went live and was like, well, basically, we were swingers. We were like light swingers.
Yeah.
And we never went fully, we didn't, fully have sex, but we did everything else.
Okay.
Which I'm always like, okay, that's sex, but all right.
Soaking, rubbing, drinking coffee together.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So they were swingers, and she was like, everyone was basically alluding to the fact that all these Mormon women in Mom Talk were swingers.
Yes.
Is that true? I don't know. There's no answer to that. The other women say it's not true, but that's kind of what she alluded to, so it's a real will they, won't they?
Yeah.
A lot of drama ensued where all the moms were fighting because they were like, she's making it seem like I'm a swinger.
Yeah.
Which is a nightmare. And then the show comes out.
Yes.
So I'm just going to kind of start from what...
Wait, can you explain soft swinging for everyone? Okay, it says, you'll notice the group of Mormons have they're finding loopholes in the Church of Latter-day Saints. In 2022, Taylor, Frankie, Paul revealed she and her friends had been, quote, soft swinging, a take on swinging that allows you to hook up with someone other than your partner, quote, without going all the way. Taylor did go all the way and ended up leaving her husband for the man she had an affair with. Okay, so here's the thing. Like you mentioned with the coffee earlier and then having sex outside marriage, I feel like religiously the focus may actually need to be redirected. Here's the thing. If I don't care if anyone has sex.
Right.
And I don't really care much for organized religion. I do respect it, right? But like if you're in an organized religion, I feel like if you're looking for loopholes, do you think that God in heaven above, however you define them, is like, you got me?
But because these people don't care.
Yeah.
Not all people, but these people are doing this. I saw this so much in the Christian church. I wasn't very involved in the Christian, but my dad was very religious.
Yeah.
But you watch these people. It's not about, because God, if you believe in God, you'd think he knows everything.
Yeah.
He's always with you.
Yeah.
But they care what the church thinks. They care what people at the church think.
Yes.
Which is so funny because it's like, what is all of this? All this is, if God's not upstairs going, oh, well, he stuck it in her.
Oh.
Yikes. He's been eating her out for 8 hours, but I didn't care because
she
that's
didn't come.
fine. Yeah, she didn't come, so it doesn't count. It's
Yeah.
like, that is so crazy. But they don't care. But it is interesting because all of this is private.
Yeah.
They're not telling the church any of this. So it's interesting to have these weird, like, moral kind of like, well, if I do this, I can feel okay about myself.
Yeah.
But that's why I think they'll do things like they will drink soda instead of coffee.
Yes.
Which I've never understood because there's caffeine in soda, so I don't really get. Because I thought it was that you're not allowed to have caffeine.
Yeah, if it's literally the coffee bean, then I understand that.
But what?
If it's caffeine, the thing is you can pick apart a lot of. Okay,
but they do all that to like, it's like, see, I'm doing the things, and then all the whatever. But so soft swinging is basically just like everything, but which is always hard for me as a lesbian because I'm like, well, that's sex to me.
Yeah,
I've never done anything else. I'm a Virgin Mary. But that is what it is. So where does the secret life of Mormon wives start? So the secret life of Mormon wives starts in the aftermath of the scandal as Taylor tries to reconnect with her friends, some of whom feel she breached their privacy.
Actually, from a gay POV, if these women are not out and you said that you did everything with everyone, I know that occasionally making out with women, it doesn't make you gay, but like there is an element of outing here,
Well, I think she's saying they all, maybe I'm wrong, but I think she's saying they all switched partners. Like they were all switching, not female.
I think they did do female.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I gotta go back. I gotta go back.
Wait a minute
now. I'm not comfortable talking about this. This is too personal. That it's weird. I mean, it's weird to share, and it's also like she purposefully is making it vague in a way that's like, I have such a frustration when people will like share a little bit of tea, and then they'll purposely not share a lot of it and be like, that is my personal information. It's like, okay, then shut up. Like, why are you sharing half of? Don't say, oh, well, a bunch of people I and you know are swingers, but don't disrespect me by asking who they are on the internet. When it's like, it felt like she purposefully was trying to like allude to certain people.
Yeah.
So some of them even moved. The girl Whitney moved to Hawaii for a couple months to just get away from it all. They were all very upset. So in the beginning, you see a lot of them kind of like having dinners with Taylor and being like, yeah, that made me uncomfortable. And her being like, okay, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, they kind of make her seem like the Kim Kardashian of the show. Like she's kind of the leader of it. Group member Whitney Leavitt has moved to Hawaii dodging accusations, but has returned with her own secrets. That's right. Not all secrets got exposed in the TikTok scandal.
Okay.
Taylor clearly sees herself as the natural leader of this gang of mummy influencers and is trying to, I was like, mummy influencers? I was thinking of like people wrapped up in toilet paper.
Yeah.
And is trying to reclaim her place as a leader of the pack. While they're all eager to re-engage their Mom Talk followers, some of whom were confused by their off-brand behavior, there's conflict about how this should be achieved. Whitney wants to go back to basics, saying, we need to get back to what Mom Talk was. There's a war brewing with one cast member saying you're either Team Taylor or you're Team Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
Something I think is interesting is the church is really not happy about this, which makes sense to me. But the Mormon church famously, like, really pushes influencers.
Yeah.
Like, they like having Mormon influencers because it makes them seem, I mean, they're a business, you know,
Yeah.
they're trying to get promotion and they're trying to, like, seem hot. Like, they like the idea of all these hot women being like, we're Mormons, come join this church and you too could marry me.
Yeah.
But they do not like the show.
I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I know that they wouldn't like the show, but there's bigger fish to fry when it comes to bad Mormon publicity. You know what I mean?
Well, but I guess not probably with people that are thinking about joining the Mormon church. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I feel like people who are already thinking about the Mormon church, joining the Mormon church, which I'm like, do people do that? Just like join the Mormon church? I guess they do, but those people are probably not like looking for, like, this probably would upset them where they're like, I thought it was a pure and traditional place. And now I'm watching these women drink alcohol and soak.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not featured on the show, by the way. If you're like, they soak on the show, they don't.
Blurred, yeah.
It's blurred and it's constant. But they did say that seeing the backlash from our community has been rough, but I also think that if they gave it a chance, they would realize it's just an empowering show about women in this religion. It's funny, though, because I'm like, yeah, they don't want to see women be empowered. Like, the Mormon church wouldn't be like, well, the women are really starting to believe in themselves. The women are really, they're girl bosses. Yeah. They don't want to see that. I don't think they're going to like the empowerment of the women. It's kind of what, the oppression of them is kind of what keeps them going. You know?
Yeah, the full thing is this empowering show about women in this religion and culture, but navigating it differently because we're all imperfect humans. Okay, I'm going to humor you right now. Okay, that should be the goal of most organized religion that's open, like especially Christianity. Like, everyone's imperfect. The only person who's perfect is God. But a lot of people use something sinister in disguise it with Christianity, right? Like, you know, you want to get people vulnerable and feel like they're bad and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's, yes, you know, like, that's how realistically Christianity and its many branches should be, but like, they don't want, like Kendahl was saying, women to be empowered. They don't want a new culture. Like, the reason why the culture of the church has survived so long is because it has not changed much.
Right.
Like, so that's to keep the religion alive. You really shouldn't question or change much, or you would start to dismantle the religion slowly.
Well, that's what I find so interesting is they're kind of like, this is the new wave of Mormonism, which I understand to a certain degree, but most of the things that are new wave are things that directly conflict with, like, things they're not allowed to do, like drinking, for example. Like, you're not supposed to drink if you're Mormon, but a lot of them do, and some of them don't. But it's like, if all the things you want to improve and be like, I want to make it to where women feel comfortable doing this, they all go against direct things you're not supposed to do, maybe you shouldn't be. I feel like you just need to ask the question, like, why am I in this religion? What about this religion do I like exactly? Yeah. Especially when there's so many damn religions. I'm like, there's probably another one out there that you could like that's pretty similar.
Yeah, you'd be Episcopalian. That
I mean, truly.
As much as I hate saying this, like, okay, like, religions are religions for a reason. Like, words and like spiritual texts have meanings and reasons behind them, and so like it kind of reminds me of like when someone says they like want to be a lesbian or something, but they've only dated men, only want to marry a man. It's like, well, see, some words do have meanings, right? I understand if you're unpacking stuff and you need time, or like, you know, you have a very unique relationship with gender. But, like, you're like, I want to strip away all these things, and that is the essence of Mormonism. Yeah. So, actually, what Kendahl is saying, you may thrive better in a spiritual community that is not Mormonism, instead of trying to reinvent something that has deep roots attached to a lot of other. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I mean, exactly. Where I'm just kind of like, so what is it about this that is appealing to you? It feels like you might disagree with all of it, and it's I find it very interesting. Yeah. But I think it's also probably based so much in family where they're like, well,
culture. Yeah, like actual community.
Yeah, but why? But then you're in a community with people who don't agree with you on any. Like, it's just so taxing over time.
Yes.
And then you find this group of women that you're like, this feels good because we all are kind of on the same page. Yeah. But the same page is just kind of going against your church, which is like, then just leave.
Yeah.
And then you could imagine how many people you could connect with if you left the church.
Yeah, wait, what's that saying? Your new life is going to cost you your old? You want the benefits of the old life, but you want a new life with everyone. The thing is when you pursue a new life or some sort of like growth or something, you're going to lose a lot of what you had.
Yeah.
So it's just that happens in every realm. If you come out, you're going to lose a lot of people. If you get sober, you're going to lose a lot of people. If you get a better job or something, you're going to lose some people who think that you're better than them. Like I'm so sorry. I understand you want the community and that's so important, but like you're going to lose some people.
Well, it's also interesting because this is kind of a separate thing, but I feel like sometimes obviously a very specific group of religious people.
Yeah.
But there's so much of like not being understanding of anyone's situation until you're in it.
Yeah.
So for example, like I feel like in the Mormon church, divorce is very much a no-go.
Yes.
And there are people who are saying, well, divorce should be illegal. That are they literally are voting. They want divorce to be illegal.
Yes.
But when something insane happens, like a bunch of these women are divorced, and I don't know what these women think about, but a bunch of these women are divorced. Or, for example, Kevin Franke, who was married to Ruby Franke, of course, divorces her because she's insane.
Yeah.
And a danger and a nightmare. But it's like in those moments, they're like, finally they understand. You know what I mean? Where they're like, oh, well, this is unbearable, so I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I just always think it's very interesting where it feels like there's a group of people who really need to experience something in order to ever put themselves in someone's shoes.
Yes.
And it's like you watch on this show all these rules from Mormons, and I bet a lot of these women vote for someone who really abides by the Mormon rules, and yet they themselves in each individual circumstance are like, well, but my circumstance is really different.
Yeah.
And it's really devastating to have to get a divorce, but you don't understand, like my husband he was terrible. And it's like,
yes.
Yeah, well, that's mostly why most people get divorced.
Oh my gosh, wait, so at the beginning of this episode, I talked about the book, Between Us, How Cultures Create Emotions. Okay, so as an autistic person, this is something that I broke down. Emotions can be broken down into sensations and socialization. So sensations and emotions are not the same. Like a lot of people say, like if you feel like everyone hates you, take a shower or something like that. People are confusing like the sensation of feeling grimy with like being bad, right? Because you feel bad, you're like, oh, I am bad. You've confused the sensation and emotion. Okay, so autistic people, what Kendahl just said, like we're like, why would you do this? And you have to experience something. The reason why I see like people do stuff and I'm like autistic and I'm like, I would never do that. The reason why people do it is because they have an emotion attached to it. Yeah. Like I don't know what it's like to be I mean, I do know it's like be super Christian, but not married, right? And so like we're all like, we could all give this woman advice, just leave the church. But if you have not been in the Mormon church, if we haven't literally attached all these emotions that she has to whatever's going on, like of course we're just gonna be like, oh yeah, just leave. But we don't. And so I know that's a very like, everyone's like, yeah, duh, motivations emotions motivate people. But yeah, it's crazy. Keep going.
Totally. Well, and then it even gets worse. So Taylor, this is like late in episode 1 or episode 2, she gets arrested for domestic violence. Taylor's journey of redemption doesn't start with her friend group. Just a few months after the swinging scandal, Taylor Franke Paul was arrested for domestic violence in the presence of a child after an intoxicated argument with her boyfriend. Body camera footage is shown in the first episode. It's alleged that her boyfriend, Dakota Mortensen, felt scared for his life when she threw a metal chair at him. One of her children was also struck by the chair. Oh my God. Taylor pled guilty to assault on August 2023 and has documented her sobriety journey extensively online.
One of ours.
Another big scandal in the show is Whitney's husband.
Okay.
He was on Tinder. Now there are rumors that maybe it wasn't Tinder. Maybe it was another platform for a little gayer group of people.
Uh-huh.
That's an alleged. That's just something people are talking about. But
yes.
Whitney Leavitt disappeared to Hawaii. It was assumed that she was laying low after the soft swinging scandal. Turns out there were bigger issues in her marriage. Her husband had a porn addiction and she was trying to conceal it. I don't even know if it was true until I confronted Connor. I went to him like, look at this joke. And there was more to it than that. I didn't want it to come out because I just felt like there was a whole story. There's a reason why people do certain things. And I think he was just confused.
Yes.
The word confused was used so much, which is what made people also, he seems kind of
yeah.
But the word confused made people be like, no one ever calls someone who cheats on their wife with a woman confused. Like, that's such an interesting word to use.
Yeah.
So people kind of alluded to that. It seemed like maybe it was a gay thing. But she also in the show, they like ask her how long has this been going on? And she's like, since we got married. Oh. Since they got married, which is, they have children together. I mean, it's been a while. And it is just, it's very interesting. One thing I always think about, though, I feel like so many people in the Mormon church, you hear about porn addiction. And I was talking to my therapist the other day about how I used to be like, oh, I had a shopping addiction.
Yes.
But at the time, I had no money.
Yeah.
So I think there's truth to, like, I was buying a lot of stuff I could not afford.
Yes.
But also, it felt like a shopping addiction because I was going into such debt, but I was also going into debt because I didn't have money. And I needed, like, basic human, I needed to go get groceries, and I'd go into debt when I got groceries. I'd go into debt when I paid rent. And I was like, sometimes it feels like something will be, like, labeled as an addiction, like a shopping addiction, when the person just doesn't have money.
Yes.
And I think sometimes I wonder if it's similar in, obviously, porn addiction, I'm sure is real. I'm not saying it's not. But I'm always like, does this person really have a porn addiction, or do they just watch porn like once a week in a very normal, not bad way?
Yes.
But it feels like an addiction because they're not supposed to do it at all.
Yes. I actually do have, okay, this is not from an anonymous group. There was this lady who was encouraged to like, this is not, I think it's like a weird area. She was not an alcoholic, but she came because her husband told her to, because she would have like 1 or 2 glasses of wine every week, and he was deeply religious. And so since they were not supposed to drink, he was like, you're an alcoholic.
An alcoholic, yeah.
And my friends and I were like, you do not have a problem. You have someone who is trying to control you, and the easiest way to put someone down is to make them seem like they have an addiction issue. Like, the thing is she was, okay, the cornerstone of identifying an alcoholic usually is incredibly defensive. Yeah. She was like, I'm a drunk. And we were like, listen, you would not be saying this. Yeah. Like, and so like this is not like it's a very unique situation. I can't describe it, but like, she was basically convinced by her husband, and she literally had no dependence on it. Right. She did not buy it in bulk. She wasn't hiding it. You can't hide it with my friends. But like, so I understand, like, when you have a baseline of nothing, right, it could seem like an addiction.
If it's because it's rooting your, because then when I was like going to Target and buying my groceries, but getting like 10 extra things that were fun, I was like, I have a shopping addiction. Versus friends, people I knew who were pretty wealthy, bought 80 times more things than I did. Stuff they did not need and was just... But it's never considered that because they financially were fine.
Yes.
And obviously having a shopping addiction does exist, but it was made me feel like I had a shopping addiction. When looking back, I'm like, I think I had some bad spending habits.
Yes.
But I didn't have a shopping addiction.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, you know how, like, I talk about, like, centering and, like, how you know you're, okay, so, like, people, like, can center men because everyone wants love, intimacy, connection, and then, like, you can, in the second row is, like, alcohol, drugs, men, whatever. Like, spending your money on food and it gets you in the negative, by no means is an addiction thing. You're not trying to fill yourself with love and intimacy and connection with food. Yeah. Or, like, necessities. But, like, with the porn thing... her drinking, she sounds like an alcoholic, welcome to the club. But like his porn thing, no one becomes addicted to anything for no reason. It is incredibly rare to meet someone who's genuinely addicted to alcohol and there's nothing going on beneath it. Right. So like usually they're trying to regulate some weird feeling, or they're trying to numb, or, you know, it's like they think that this is the only way that like you can experience certain, you know, so I think that with the religious aspect, I don't know if he has a porn addiction. He probably just watched a couple of videos, and she's like, you're going to burn in hell. But, like, yeah, so actually, I don't know much about his...
and he might be addicted to porn. I have no idea. I'm just saying it's interesting. Like, I feel like I always hear in the Mormon community, I mean, when that Ruby Franke thing was going on, a lot of it was about, like, Jody Hildebrandt, who was that life coach, and almost every man who spoke from the Mormon church was like, well, I went to Jody because I had a porn addiction. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Out of 50 people that, like... the church isn't that big.
Yeah.
Like, all these men have porn addictions.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time believing. And I think there's a world where they're all so sexually repressed that they're watching a lot, or if they're all, like, gay and they're watching, like, gay porn.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, that's also not a porn addiction. You are a closeted gay man.
Yes.
And are married to a woman. Like, you're addicted to feeling any sort of, like, emotional, sexual feeling.
Yeah.
But that's not a porn addiction.
No. This reminds me, we did another episode on wilderness therapy camps.
Oh, yeah.
Where they send, like, extremely Christian families will send, like, a oldest son who mouthed off. And then another family will send a child who has been selling drugs since he was 8. And now, you're kind of, it depends on who the parents are, but let's keep going. Yeah,
totally. Also, there was drama because Whitney debated doing a brand deal with a sex toy company.
Yeah.
I also could not believe they let them do this because in the show, it's her, like, pulling out a box with the sex toy and being like, I can't decide whether or not to do this. Like, they're going to pay me $20K.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money, but also I feel weird doing it. I'm shocked the brand let her be like, well, I'm only doing it because it's a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I'm looking at the sex toy that she's holding right now. It's a Balesa Pebble.
You do brand deals with them, right?
Love them. Love them. I would have yes.
She's one of the bigger and busiest personalities on The Secret Life of Mormon Wives, and she was presented with an opportunity to make $20,000 promoting a sex toy to her 264,000 followers on Instagram. There's some pretty loose interpretations of Mormon religious tenets happening in The Secret Life of Mormon Lives. But the Book of Mormon, which was penned in 1830, didn't cover sex toys, if you can believe it. Which was, amongst many other things, Whitney tells her mom, this was clearly written by a British person because it keeps saying mom, which always throws me off. Whitney tells her mom and her sister that she wants to be empowering. Her sister notes it doesn't fit within the family-friendly vibe of her content, and her mom observes, when you're seeking pleasure, it can get out of hand. For anyone experiencing with 2024 vibrators, it certainly can. It seems like Whitney went ahead with the deal. It's so funny to be like, if you're experiencing pleasure, it can get out of hand. You might start experiencing more pleasure.
Yeah.
And you don't want to feel too much pleasure.
So what is interesting to this, okay, so Whitney is the one with the husband, the porn addiction. Now that she's comfortable with sex toys and sex, talking about it publicly, unless she has to, I think her husband may actually have an issue. Because if she was just incredibly conservative and then she was like, he has a porn addiction, then I'd be like, are you sure? But it seems like she may be more open to sexuality than we think.
This is another thing that does make me laugh. It's very sad, but it just, stuff like this on the internet really gets me. Because this is another thing Whitney kind of got, quote unquote, canceled for.
Yeah.
Which was her son. Well, I'll just read it. Whitney received heavy criticism when she shared a TikTok video from the hospital while her son was sick with RSV. She talks to Taylor about how Taylor was forgiven more quickly for her fairly severe transgression than Whitney was. But co-star Demi says that when Whitney was receiving ketamine therapy, she had told her that she made the video to get likes and clout. Coming out of ketamine, you're feeling things very deeply. Truths are coming out about yourself that maybe you wouldn't otherwise admit, Demi shares. And in that moment, she admitted to me that the video was for sympathy, likes, clout, recognition, and to gain her following. So the video is for baby in the hospital. The baby is hooked up. He's in the shot. Like, you can see the baby. And she's doing a dance behind him. And it's one of those dances where they, like, write information on the screen.
Yeah.
So she's, like, doing all little dances on the screen. It's like, my little baby was checked into the hospital and has RSV.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was going to make it. Like, it's really funny. It's so sad and crazy, but it is just so bad. It's funny. And so people were like, this is nuts. And I think it also came at the time where, like, a lot of family bloggers were getting called out, where they were like, why are you filming your kid?
Yeah.
Why are you even thinking about filming or the internet when your child is in the hospital?
Yes. Yeah, that's weird. But, I mean, ketamine can loosen you up. Like, it's kind of like being drunk. So, I mean...
But she didn't film the video when she was on ketamine.
Oh, she didn't?
That's the point. She said, the girl's being like... Because then in the show, she's like, well, I just had been so depressed because my child's in the hospital that I said, you know what? I'm just going to do something fun for me. You know what I mean? And then, I guess when she was on ketamine, she told Demi, well, I really did it to get likes and clout.
Yes.
And sympathy and grow my following. So she's kind of saying, like, her real truth is that she did it for clout.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Like, what? I wouldn't even think about that. If my kid was in the hospital, I wouldn't be like, this is a real cash grab. This could be really good for business.
Well, I mean, like, people always, like, that really would be for likes and clout. Like, especially, like, when someone's going through something mentally or physically, like, you know, people are more sensitive and stuff like that. And so if your child's going through something, it's just very déclassé. That's why would you dance? Okay.
It's just such a, like, there is no brain in that head. Like, how could you post that and not be like, people are not going to like this?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was some drama that happened. The big drama. Okay, this is the big drama when I watch it. They go to Chippendales. Have you ever been?
No.
Do you know of?
Yes.
I mean, it's the classic Magic Mike moment. I mean,
yes.
it's if you don't know what it is, a bunch of really sexy dancer guys dancing up on everyone. It's in Vegas. It's supposed to be crazy. And you go up, your mom goes up drunk and a guy gives her a lap dance. So the women go to this.
Yeah.
And two of the husbands are not pleased. They are very unhappy, like to the point where they're like threatening divorce via text because they find out. Also, the girls got a VIP experience, so they got to rub oil on the boys before the men. I'm sorry, got to rub oil on the men before. And it just started this bigger conversation of these women were like, these men are so controlling, and it's so hard because it's like, well, the religion you are in, it literally lays it out. That the men can control you. Like, that is what, so these men, suck.
Yeah.
But that's how they were raised. Like, they were raised to think this is right. So I think watching it, I'm like, how could this guy think that's okay?
Yeah.
But on the other end, I'm sure his dad was like, this is what is acceptable. Like, this is how you are a good husband. This is how you're a good man.
Yeah.
Very controlling, very bad. And it's really ironic because then they find out one of the men who was really mad was downstairs gambling. The whole night. He's like a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
They all seem to have addiction issues. I don't know. It seems like when you repress feelings, maybe some other things come out is what we're starting to learn.
Yeah.
Because I've never met a group of people where every person has an addiction issue. So he's a gambling addiction. So the girls are just very upset and they're like, that is not fair. Like, that is not fair that he would feel like he can tell you what to do and you didn't even do anything bad. And that is a big plot point on the show. Is that their husbands are controlling.
Weirdly enough, I think that the men actually have a point here.
Really? You wouldn't let Naomi rub anyone at Chippendales?
Stripping even the religious aspect away, if you want to talk about fair, if my partner like was rubbing oil over a dancer, like I love when Naomi like goes to raves and clubs and stuff, and yes, obviously enjoy it. The touching aspect is intimate contact. You know, it's an intimate act, and I understand that person is at work, and you know, but if actually, and I hate to say this out loud, if the roles were reversed, like it would be inappropriate, and so like it's not fair. Like actually, this is just weirdly enough, the men are more progressive in this situation.
Well, I think I'm gonna get this part messed up. I'm sure I'm saying this wrong. But I'm pretty sure the two girls that got in big trouble, their husbands, didn't end up going.
Okay.
And what I can't remember is if it was like they were going to go and then the men got mad and then they didn't go. So they were kind of like, well, you would have done it or if they just were like, we're not going to go. And they were mad anyways that their friends went. But I guess that is more of a conversation between, I wouldn't care about that, but like, I don't, but that's
If you found out that Jordan rubbed oil all over a stripper, what would you do?
I don't think I would care. But I will recognize that isn't a comment. I don't think it would bother me. I think I'd think of it as like fun.
I actually can't imagine that now.
What? Jordan rubbing? I genuinely think my reaction would be like, what's happening? Like, I think I would just be so shocked. No, I wouldn't be angry. I would just be like, where were you? And who is this person that's come out? Like, I think I would honestly be happy for them. I'd be like, pop off. I would not really care because that just doesn't bother me. I don't know if it's that maybe my love language isn't really physical touch, but it doesn't feel really that big. It feels like fun. If it was, if they were at like a bar and met a girl and then started like, and I saw them like rubbing each other, I would be like, that's cheating. But if they went to Chippendales, this is a hard scenario because we're gay. So I think I would think it was funny if they rubbed a Chippendales dancer with oil because it's a man. But I think if it was a woman, I don't think it would bother me if it felt like we were like they were going to a fun night where like the thing was. I guess to me, if I don't care about them going to a strip club where they happen to, you could pay extra to rub oil on someone.
Yeah.
I don't think it would bother me for them to do that. I don't think, but I don't think I'll ever know my real feelings because I won't experience it. But I don't think that would bother me.
Yeah, I think, I have a lot of friends who are scantily clad around me and Naomi because, Naomi goes to raves, so that's like to be expected and I love it. The thing is if the touching aspect, Naomi is a cute little mask. I get so defensive of my mask. And like, I just imagine, a femme would love that. And that just actually makes me mad. Naomi can't do that to anyone.
Yeah. Well, I can't even remember. I can't remember exactly. This part kind of was a blur for me, but there was a lot of anger and the men were just like, we're not even speaking to you anymore. I think why it gets complicated is because every person, man and woman on the show, is picking and choosing what they think is acceptable and not acceptable.
Yeah.
So a lot of resentment builds where it's kind of like, I think if all of their husbands were the perfect man, and they did everything they were supposed to do, and every morning they woke up and they read the Book of Mormon and they did just what they're supposed to do, but they don't. They have like gambling addictions. They're drinking alcohol. They're swingers. And then one of them is like, I want to go rub this man with oil. And then that's the line. I think then it feels more like, well, that's not because of your religion. It's because or even our relationship, it's because you want to control me.
Yes.
Because you're fine doing all this stuff and breaking rules and things you don't find acceptable. But then, and I think it's also important to remember, these people have like children with each other too. So I think they're also sending texts being like, I'm done. I'm going to take the kids. And it's like, you can't just like, if your wife goes to Chippendales, you can't just like take her children.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it just feels like nothing is coming from a real place from any of these people because the husbands are like, I'm a good Mormon man and you need to follow the Mormon rules, but I don't have to follow any Mormon rules.
Yeah.
Because it's not about Mormonism. It's about being a misogynist. Like they just want these women to be put in place. And that's why they're clinging so hard to traditional Mormon values because that ensures that they can say and do whatever they want. And so I think that is maybe what it feels like. I think if one of their husbands was like always in a missionary uniform and was like, I love this religion so much, it would feel a little different.
Yeah.
But none of them are. I mean, that's why they're going to Chippendales in the first place. These women are not following the rules.
No. There's like 3 types of perfectionism. There's like self-oriented perfectionism where you're like really hard on yourself. There's socially prescribed perfectionism where like you men and women got to be perfect in their gender roles. Right. And then there's other oriented perfectionism. It's where you hold other people to high standards that you don't hold yourself to. And I would have said that this is socially prescribed perfectionism if the husband was like super Mormon.
Right.
He's like, you got to follow your role. I follow mine.
Right.
But since he does not follow his role, it does fall into the category of other oriented perfectionism. And like you said, with misogyny, the other oriented perfectionism is associated with the dark triad of personality traits, which is narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So I'm not going to assume what's going on mentally. Let's just say it's not good. But I'm saying if he expects so much of his wife that he himself does not do, it does point to a lot of misogyny and dark traits. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's really fun. Well, because it's like hard to nail. Because, if you're a person who's like, hey, it makes me uncomfortable when you rub oil on people.
Yes.
That's not a bad thing.
Fair.
It is fair.
But if you're gambling,
watch this episode. But if you're downstairs gambling, shut the hell. Let me oil up my guy.
Yeah.
And I think it's also so hard for me to imagine because the thought of me rubbing. I don't think I would think to ask Jordan if I wanted to rub oil on a Chippendales dancer because it would purely be funny. Like I just don't think I could even put myself in those shoes because in my head I was like, it's funny. Yeah. But I guess if I put myself in like if it was a woman, if it was a lesbian.
Yeah.
Stripper, and Jordan was like, I want to pay a bunch of money to rub oil on her. I'd be like, chill out, please. Calm down. It's my birthday. Would you please? But I don't know. So anyways, we're running out of time, but it's a really good show.
I was going to say, like, while she's rubbing oil on the Chippendales dancer and he's, like, downstairs gambling, like, hey, stop rubbing oil on her. And then you just, like, cut to, like, her phone on the TV. And it's just like, he who is without sin shall cast the first stone.
Literally.
And then she turns on Do Not Disturb and then goes back to rubbing the oil.
It's just like the pick and choosing is going to make people mad.
Yeah.
You got to you can't just decide when and where you're allowed to. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, put the oil down and stop gambling, guys.
But I think once again, it's like men use religion to justify oppressing people.
Oh my God, wait, this was a statistic where like a lot of women are like significantly so and Gen Z are like leaving organized religion, but weirdly enough, men are getting more religious. they're getting like
because it comes with more freedom.
Yeah, like Gen Z men are getting closer to like boomers, like boomer males, and so I'm like, oh my God, they're actually getting more religious, and women are like letting that shit go.
Because imagine if you were like, if someone's like, hey, we offer a thing where if you're a woman, you can come boss any man around you want. They have to do anything, and you don't have to do anything. And you can just be a child forever and then sleep with your husband whenever you want it.
Yeah.
More women would join.
Okay. I wouldn't join. I was going to make a funny joke until you said be a child forever, because I was going to say you're literally describing a sex dungeon. But like, yes.
Well, okay, besides that part, it literally, I mean, I think people are like, they view it like men, it's like free reign.
Yeah.
Because also the men leading these religions most of the times are perverts.
Yes.
So it's like, it's one of the guys. I can do whatever I want and no one will do anything.
Yeah.
And like there's so much examples of even like law enforcement being involved with like negative things churches have done and just like letting things. It is like, I'm really, all the men listening to this are like, wait a minute. Should I join the Mormon church?
Should I convert? It's an open religion. Actually, is Mormonism open?
I think you can join it at any time.
Okay.
Anytime.
You can join the Christian church at any time, fellas.
Yeah. Although apparently, even if you are an ex-Mormon, if you haven't like removed your name from the list, you have to do a bunch of paperwork to be removed from the Mormon church.
Really?
Like so, it is.
So you
it's
still get the
very organized in
newsletters?
the sense of like I could right now be like I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
But I couldn't right now be like I'm a Mormon because I just decided. I don't think.
Yeah. I just like to imagine that you try so hard to unsubscribe from Mormonism, but you still get the emails.
I mean, you do. And then they
You're
say
like,
that people like there's a girl I follow on TikTok who is an ex-Mormon and she's like, but they show up to my house all the time and are like, hey, like. We know you haven't come to church in a while. And she's like, I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
But they always come and she always gets the emails and she always gets it's very interesting.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, if you haven't watched Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and you're into reality TV, it's a good watch. There's a lot of drama. We only scratched the damn surface. So much more happens. Mm-hmm. There's a part that I just love. They clearly the producers put together this box of questions that would ignite so much drama, and they're all like so specific to the people, but they're kind of pretending it's like a card game you'd buy at Target to get to know each other.
Oh yeah.
But the questions are, Whitney, what do you hate about Taylor? What this is obviously made by the producers, but it's very funny. It's like there's a lot of drama. And something I don't like on other reality TV shows is like we're watching for the drama. That's why you have a show. Like reality TV, I'm sorry, that is what you do. Like you give up all of your personal information. But then they're like, well, I don't want to talk about the cheating. I'm like, well, then why the fuck are we tuning in? To watch you go work at your Botox job? I care about that.
Yes.
Show me the cheating. Whereas I feel like this one, they're all new enough and they want to be successful enough. Like they're sharing the stuff. They're sharing their personal details.
Good.
There's a video of her giving birth in the hospital that not a lot is blurred. Not that that's what I'm looking for, but I'm just saying they're showing everything, even coochie. So head on over. I think it's on Hulu. I don't know.
This is not sponsored. If it was, this would be the worst ad ever. How did this get approved?
It's just like the episode where she's like, we got paid so much money, but we just like don't really like this show.
Yeah.
Make sure to head on over and watch it, and make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and follow us on socials. And thanks so much for being here. Yeah, thank you guys. Please like and subscribe because we need more. I mean, I want more ratings and stuff like that because I think that'd be fun. Yeah, it'd be fun. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, guys.